Hello everyone, welcome to URBONUS podcast. Finally, Donatas URBONUS, I'm the host, and Rytis Vyšniauskas. After a long time, we're here in our new studio in Vilnius.
Oh yes, it's great to be here. It's a pleasure, and it's great to have Manu Ginobili behind my back. And it's been a while since our last podcast. Unfortunately, there were some circumstances. Donatas was sick, I was sick. We couldn't make a podcast for, let's say, the first 2 weeks of the EuroLeague basketball, but we're here now. 4 games played, a lot to discuss, a lot of topics, and I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, the last time we had pod was September 27th, just before the start of the regular season, and sometimes 3 weeks is kind of nothing. But 3 weeks ago, Martin Schiller had a job.
We were making predictions, and if you remember, I was saying that at some point in the season, Paulius Motiejunas might make a financial decision if the team is struggling. If the ticket sales go low, he might fire Martin Schiller. But I was talking like New Year or
December,
second half of the season, and he was fired in October. So we couldn't foresee that at the time we were talking, but we were making predictions, about the EuroLeague teams. And guys, just, it's sort of a random time for us to do a podcast, but definitely now that we are under better circumstances, we will do these more regularly to cover EuroLeague games. We will have some...
Yeah, it was supposed to be a weekly podcast.
Yeah, so we will have some weekly discussions that we're going to do, and we just need to get back on track. That's it. You were traveling a lot.
Yeah.
You were traveling.
That was also one of the reasons why we couldn't sit down in one studio. So actually, 3 weeks ago, there was nothing like that in the studio. I mean, probably we had only walls and windows and something like that here in Vilnius.
So what were your, biggest impressions traveling, talking to all these people from EuroLeague teams? You visited Monaco, you were in France, you saw a lot of things. So what was your trip?
Now it's so weird to talk, especially about Monaco trip, because it seems like it was so, a long time ago, although it was like maybe only 3 weeks ago, but so much action happened since then, because we went with Rytis, who was there also sitting and doing our pod. We were in Monaco, then in Lyon, then we spent a week in Milan. So these weeks ran so fast that I actually, before the pod, I had to remember, what I was actually doing in Monaco.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting trip, especially to meet Monaco people. We met the GM, the director of communications and marketing. We met with Mike James, actually. And it was just interesting to see what is Monaco, not only the club, but the city, the principality, I would say, is all about, because it is so weird that in Monaco, the rules, restrictions are so different. And what was interesting that, there are, let's say, no real borders and no fences or whatsoever. But when you're just in the front door of the home arena of Monaco team, which is kind of a basement of Stade de Louis, I think, the Monaco football team stadium. And then you cross the street, the other side of the street, and it's French. It's France already. And rules are so different. For example, when you cross the street and you're in France, you can put your mask off, you can call Uber in that place, and you can use the internet, kind of for free because of mobile operator. While in Monaco, you have to wear masks. You cannot call Uber in Monaco area. Also, they charge you a lot. And there are so many funny differences, about this region. Basketball-wise, it was interesting to see, the main differences between Monaco and France. And Monaco is a very closed organization. They have maybe 4 or 5 people in the front office because they buy some things outside of the club, like communication team. They are very close with the government of Monaco. And I remember when news spread out about the budgets in France, and ASVEL has the bigger budget actually than Monaco, which might make us smile, If I remember well, ASVEL has a budget of 14 million euro and Monaco 13, something like that, difference of 1 million euros. And okay, I was like, something is weird, but when I tried to dig, that if Monaco could do some things just to fix the numbers to make them lower. That's not true at all, because the Principality of Monaco has some shares in the club, and I was told that there's no way they could do some, dark things inside the club and to play with numbers like, for example, with Partizan. I remember Paulius Motūnas even laughed in the press conference about their official numbers they presented about their budget.
It has something to do with taxes?
Yeah. Because of the taxes system, they can pay players much more than in France, so that makes a huge difference. What impressed me, how relaxed was Mike James, actually, and it seems like he has team around him, which kind of you cannot order anything to Mike James, but let's say they suggested being more open to media, to people and stuff. That's why you see more content from his side. And it's related to marketing decisions, because he has a deal with Adidas, so probably he has to promote Adidas brand, promote himself. Maybe he's already working, for post-retirement plans or something like that. So Mike was open, either on the post-game interview or either in our colleague Martina new show, and one. I hope that we will have that show this week, right, Rytis?
What?
And one. We will have this week finally, because the first episode will be with Mike James.
Yeah.
So he was great.
Okay, nice. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I saw your interview with Mike. It was nice to hear from him. It seems like he's in his right place at the moment, because before the season, probably himself, he didn't know where he's gonna play, whether he's gonna play at all. So we are seeing him now, and it's great that you get to meet all these people and talk to them and talk about organizations like Monaco, because I remember in the past for Lithuanian media it was so unusual to cover other teams, only Lithuanian teams, Žalgiris mainly, and it's only like 4 years ago or even 3 years ago it became like common for Lithuanian journalists to follow Žalgiris to their away games. And I think Jonas Miklovas, our boss, was the guy who started it.
I think he started in 2017 or something like that.
Yeah.
He was the one who started that. It was the beginning of the new format EuroLeague, because it was clear you could see the schedule for all season and you can
and there
do
was
some planning.
of course. So you could get a lot of content, and it was useful to follow that team. Okay, so it's nice to hear you sharing your experiences while you were away. I was watching a lot of games, doing what I do, and today, actually, I have to say, is the start of the NBA season as well tonight.
It's going to be a long day for you, right?
I'm going to have an all-nighter because I have to cover both games, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Los Angeles Lakers with the Golden State Warriors. So
there will be a ring ceremony for Milwaukee, right? I saw a lot of Greek journalists coming to Milwaukee.
Elijah Bryan will get his ring DHL because he's probably in Istanbul already. But yes, there will be the ring ceremony, and Milwaukee, Brooklyn. It's a hot game because of what happened in the playoffs last season when they played the Game 7. Kevin Durant missing that, making that shot, but just stepping on a line by inches, and Harden being out, Kyrie being out, so there will be a lot of ambitions, I think, in this game. And LA versus the Warriors also. The Lakers have a lot to prove after the preseason they had. The Warriors are waiting for Klay Thompson to come back, but other than that, people are expecting Steph Curry to play an MVP type of season. So both games are really exciting, but I have to be prepared for an all-nighter because, the first one is at 2:30 a.m. Then the next one is immediately at 5 a.m. and it's all going to finish like at around 8 a.m. And now in Lithuania is 11:30, so...
Basketball schedule is crazy.
Yeah.
Basketball never stops. It's so hard to follow all
and I still have to watch the UEFA Champions League.
Okay.
Before that.
Okay.
So there's a lot to do.
Yeah, so it's all about sports from morning to night. Okay, but let's start with Anadolu Efes. We will make a recap of first 4 rounds of the EuroLeague. And Efes starting the season 0-4. Is it something? Is it nothing? Is it everything?
Well, everyone's talking about last season and saying, look, what happened last season? They started so bad and they finished being champions. I would say it's a different situation because last season they were struggling mainly because they didn't have any preseason practices or games. They were dealing with COVID. Players were out of shape.
Larkin was out for a while.
Yeah, and they just needed time. Now, what I see is that, well, yes, in some games they maybe needed a little bit more luck or concentration. Let's say against ASVEL, they should have won that game. After three quarters, they were up. They were playing decently, and they should have won that game, but they just switched out in the fourth quarter. Against CSK, it was a high-scoring game. They lost by 4 points against a team that had a dominant Shengelia at that time. I wouldn't say it was a really bad game. The really bad game was the first one in Madrid. But what I see now is that probably it is happening that some of these players are just getting older. And now you cannot be dependent on Krunoslav Simon and his health because he's 36 and now he's not playing. Other players have some issues as well, like James Anderson, for example, in the third position. And what I like is that, Anadolu Efes is a rich club. They have a deep budget and they are reacting quickly. We lost 4 games. We're seeing these injuries, these problems, and bam, they are adding a player. They are adding Elijah Bryant, a former Maccabi player, an NBA champion with Milwaukee Bucks, a player who will help Vasa Micic and Shane Larkin, being the creator. I would say he's a shooting guard, but he can be the ball handler, so he can cover the minutes of Krunoslav Simon if the creation is out. And Elijah Bryant is athletic. He's young. He's 26. He's a good defender as well. So it's a great addition for Anadolu Efes. And teams like this, they can fix problems during the season, even if they didn't do something in the preseason, preparing in the summer. So I wouldn't dramatize the situation that they lost the first 4 games. I think they will be fine. They will be all right. Maybe, losing the first 4 games already puts you in a difficult situation if you think about fighting for the first spot or even the second. But as we talked in our previous podcast, as long as you're
top 4
and you have the home court advantage, is okay. So I think they will be fine. And Vasa Micic is still playing okay. He could lower his turnovers. Ataman was criticizing him for the step back 3-pointers and everything, but that's Ataman. That's what he does. And Shane Larkin is not looking really bad. I mean, he's scoring. He just had an off game against CSK where he couldn't get a bucket. But now I think they will have a little bit better schedule ahead of them. They will play some teams they should really beat, and I think they should go on a run right now.
I just think that they don't care, really. Although they have less problems than they had compared to the last season, I think it's they figured out that they can actually skip the first part of the regular season and they can still, make they were the 4th seed or the 3rd seed in the regular season last year. I don't remember, but they had a home court advantage. So
I think it was 3rd against 6.
That means they were a top 4 team, although they finished the first part of the regular season as the 11th seed. And they were they had only 1 win more than, for example, ASVEL Villeurbanne, or no, Alba Berlin, which sounds crazy. And when you see players like Micic, Larkin, especially Singleton and other guys, you can see that they just don't care, and you cannot lose your head in October. You can follow the Twitter feed and you see all these reactions about them starting the season 0-4. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and you don't have to overreact.
Yeah.
They're too good. Yes, they lost 4 games, but right now what I see from their schedule, my prediction would be they will win 5 in a row. Now they're playing Kazan at home, then they're playing Panathinaikos away, then they have 2 home games in a row against Zalgiris and Zenit, and then they have Alba Berlin away. So in my opinion, they should win all 5 of these games, and that will be the real beginning of their season and defending the champions crown. And what do you think about Elijah Bryant, the new signing?
That's a good signing, as you mentioned. If Ataman is actually missing player like Kruno Simon, which he emphasized after the last loss against Milan, he would for sure help them. And what I like about Elijah Bryant, that he's hungry player. I like Petrushev addition. I like Elijah Bryant because they needed some fresh faces, fresh energy to boost them. when the team will be sleeping, especially in the first part of the season. So these players, these two new players, are much more motivated than the rest of the guys and when the rest of the group. So not only talent-wise, he's a great addition and a smart choice of the front office, but let's say mental-wise, he's a really good character to add. He was a good guy in Maccabi, so everything is okay about that addition. But in this, I'm just enjoying this ride in a different perspective. I like how Ataman is using some, how he's trying to communicate this tough beginning of the season. At first, he compared his team as like to tourists in Madrid when they lost badly against Real. Then when they blew up the 19-point lead against ASVEL, he mentioned that his team looked like a mini basket team. Now it seems like he starts, criticizing his players. After the third loss against ASVEL, he was against somebody. Now, he mentioned Misic, Singleton didn't,
didn't get a rebound.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Misic, Larkin. By the way, what would be your impression? What would be your Ataman impression about the start of the season, 0-4, and being in the locker room after the game against Milan?
Singleton, no rebound. What is this? Masa Micic, step back, 3-pointer. Why you need that? No smart basketball. What is this? Shane, only one Shane who play good game. In Madrid, if not Shane, we lose 40 points. Okay?
Okay, coach. Thank you, coach, for your comment. So, I mean,
no problem.
Yeah, just enjoy this ride. Just enjoy the off-court things. But when it really matters, they will be out there again fighting for the title.
Yeah, and Elijah Bryant is a player who will definitely know his role in this team, because previously he played with Dorsey and Wilbekin, so he was sort of the third guy. And in this case, he will be the third guy as well, covering from Kruno Simon and playing with Vasa and Shane Larkin.
Don't forget Bobois. I mean, this is
also
loaded
Bobois.
backcourt, actually.
He's a scorer, yeah. So I think there will be no problems for Elijah Bryant to acknowledge his new role in this team. He was waived by the Milwaukee Bucks for obvious reasons. He didn't play much. He was there for the second part of the season. He became an NBA championship, and I think for any player, even though he didn't play much, to be in that environment with Giannis Antetokounmpo, to see the professionalism there with him, with Middleton, with the Holiday, it helps you. It improves you as a player, and I think that Elijah Bryant will come back to the EuroLeague even stronger than he was in Tel Aviv. So it's a great addition, as you mentioned, for Anadolu, and the wins they're coming.
Let's talk a bit about. We started with the worst team so far, which sounds okay.
One of the worst
in the standings, and let's talk about the best team so far. And I think that although both Barcelona and Armani has four wins, I believe that Milan at the moment is the best team of the EuroLeague so far after 4 solid wins against CSKA, Baskonia, Maccabi, and Anadolu. I just think that they are best all-around team so far. Defensively, they allow only 70 points per game. And offensively, what I like the most, the new additions. If you remember, I was a bit skeptical about their new additions, but so far I was impressed how fast they adjusted to Etero and Messina game. First of all, I love Devon Hall. He's not only scoring 13 points per game on 50% three-point shooting, but he seems to be very smart, very solid, well-built player who is solid not only offensive end. He's a great spot-up shooter. He doesn't force his shots, but in defensive end, his body helps him, to stop some perimeter threats. And he's really good all-around player. Nikola Mele. I mean, we all know Nikola Mele. Although he's not, he doesn't have impressive numbers. 8 points per game is nothing to Nikola, but it's just a pure pleasure to watch him play and to watch all his post-up game moves. But what I liked even more was Kostas Mitoglou. He's scoring almost 9 points in 19 minutes, 5 rebounds, 1.8 offensive rebounds, and he's just a energy boost, very physical player, and what he's different right now so far in the beginning of the season, that he finally making shots beyond the arc. His 3-point percentage is crazy, 46 compared
6
to
from 13.
below 30 in Panathinaikos, and you can see how Ettore Messina loves his effort, his hustle plays on the court. He was very important in both wins against Maccabi and Anadolu when the team really needed his help. So
I think against Anadolu he was just crucial. He played almost 30 minutes and
he made the shots when it was really needed. He made physical plays when it was really needed. So, I mean...
But I said it all along that it was a great signing for them. I didn't know much whether Hall or Jerian Grant or Troy Daniels will be good.
Hall's supposed to be a backup player for Troy Daniels, but since Daniels is injured, Devon Hall will be very hard
top scorer right now.
Replace.
But about Konstantinos Mitoglou, I always said that he's going to be good in this team. He's going to be good for Ettore Messina, and it's just a shame that Panathinaikos lost such a great Greek player. I believe they could have done more to keep him in Athens. But yeah, as you said, Armani's clicking, and we shouldn't be surprised probably about them doing this. They still have a lot of experienced players, the veterans, even guys like Nikola Meli. As I said, he's coming back to the EuroLeague, but he has so much experience. But in the previous seasons, they also had amazing runs, especially in the beginning of the season. They were lacking energy in the second part. So this is the case where you think whether this will happen again, because it's a veteran team. Will they be able to keep this up? Because right now I do see them potentially extending this winning streak to, let's say, 7, because the upcoming games for them at home against ASVEL, then they are going to Munich to face once again Andrea Trinchieri and Bayern. Then they have Zvezda at home, and after that they play Barca, they play Fener. So potentially I can see them winning 7 in a row at the beginning of the season, but it's just that in the previous 2 seasons I saw Armani lacking energy and not playing as sharp in the second part of the season. So this start is a great boost for the whole season. I predicted them in the 6th place, but of course starting like this, it puts you in a good position to fight for the top 4, which is obviously very important.
I enjoyed my time in Milan a lot. I didn't mention it in the beginning when you asked me about all these trips, because I knew that we were going to talk about Milan as well. And it was so joyful to participate in the press conferences where Ettore Messina was, because he's so... I would say intellectual, but at the same time he's so playful. He makes the press conference in an event, and after all this season with Zalgiris, with Martin Schiller, with all the respect to Martin Schiller, but he was just too diplomatic, and all these press conferences was more or less a waste of time. For us journalists, it's always fun to have something different, something more colorful, and Ettore was just delivering all the time. At first he joked about Kyle Hines when I asked him about his unexpected retirement plans. If you saw, Kyle Hines mentioned on the podcast that it might be his last season. So Ettore, after he saw the headline, he just texted Kyle that let's not joke, Kyle. And I've actually heard that Kyle on the End One episode with Martina, he mentioned that even his wife was surprised by his statement. So I believe that Kyle quickly changed his mindset about
the way he looks. I think he can go on for 5 more years.
Oh yeah.
It's just a matter of motivation, because he's won it all already. He's proven everything, and if he's not motivated, you could see him retiring. But talking about
it doesn't look like he's not motivated.
His playing level, he's the biggest professional there is in the game, and his numbers are just as good as in any other season, if not better. So retiring right now would be crazy. I'd say he has to win the title for Milano, then he could retire probably. They were kind of close last season, and they should be hungry again this year, so Kyle Hines should not really joke about retiring right now.
And Ettore also joked about referees, kind of indirectly. There were a lot of I would say weird calls, weird situations, because even with 90 seconds into the game of Anadolu and Milan, the referee already had to invite both coaches on the baseline to explain some situations, and it's already weird when it happens in the beginning of the third quarter. Messina got technical with 12 minutes into the game. It's not Chacho also got technical. I mean, it was crazy, and it was the first time I never expected that I could witness such an hostile experience and hostile atmosphere in Milan. Actually, some fans, even from the courtside seats, they were almost running on the court like in Panathinaikos arena in Oaxaca. We can always see some fans trashing all these referees and stuff. They were booing referees coming in the locker room at the halftime. And I asked Etere, about I called that situation as a distraction and how the team overcome these distractions. And when I started my question about these distractions, he said, "You mean girls as a distraction? The girls in the stands?" I mean, so Messina was just great. I don't know how our gift to Messina influenced him, because we bring him Bankuchen from Vilnius.
God.
Yeah, because Messina is a fan of shakotis, of tree cake.
What's tree cake? Is that the word?
Yeah,
Okay.
the English word tree cake, but Bankuchen sounds much more exciting. The history of his connection with shakotis is that actually Messina called it shakotis in Lithuanian when he approached us, because 3 years ago I had one-on-one interview with Messina in Milan in the Mediolanum Arena, and after the interview he joked by saying, "Why you didn't bring shakotis?" I was like, "What? How the hell you know Bankuchen? From Lithuania?" And actually, Benas Matkevičius, his former assistant, from time to time he was bringing Bankuchen to Moscow, and Messina was a big fan of Bankuchen because it fit very well with a cup of espresso. So Messina was really, really surprised, and it was just a great time. He actually, after one practice, he approached us saying who I should be thankful for this gift, because it really made him smile. So again, this trip was very interesting.
It's nice to see that I have something in common with the great professor, because I was celebrating my birthday a week ago, and my girlfriend's parents actually brought the big one, and I ate like half of it because I really like it. It goes well with coffee.
Yes.
I agree with the Torre
Not only
Messina,
with coffee, yeah.
It's a wise choice, and it's a great gift. Kudos to you for doing this. You know what? I actually remembered a remark I wanted to make about Anadolu. I just forgot about it. I read one quote where Ergin Ataman said that his 11-year-old son helps him prepare the game plan.
Do you think it might be a problem?
It might.
Reason?
I don't want to speculate, but maybe, just maybe, it has something to do with him losing the first 4 games of the season.
No, of course it's just a joke.
Well,
Ataman,
this is a joke coming from me as well. No offense.
because we had an interview with Ataman before the season, and he talked a lot about his son. I think his name is Sarf, and how he influenced the team mentally. Sometimes pushing them to look at things from kids' perspective, from a very, let's say, have a look from different eyes, and in some situations he really helped. But if it comes with the game plan,
Scouting report.
I'm not sure about that, bro.
Okay, so still I agree with you that Armani is probably right now the hottest team in Europe, because they not only won 4 in a row, also they won against really solid teams. Of course, 3 of those games were played at home in Mediolanum. It helps, but still he had to beat CSK in the opener. Milutinov got hurt, yes, but still CSK. It's one of the toughest opponents you can face in a EuroLeague game. Then they were playing away in Baskonia.
Very solid win, easy win.
Yeah, a defensive win, I would say,
Yeah.
78-64. And then at home, beating Maccabi confidently. Again, a solid game where they were just the better team. And with Anadolu, as Torre Messina said before the game, it's not the best time to face Anadolu, because they will be angry after losing the first 3. And in this game, they responded. When you can keep a team like Anadolu with 71 points, it gives you a great chance to win the game. We know that in the fourth quarter, Anadolu were making a run. They were
So they were
fighting.
even worse actually against Milan.
So really, it's a lot of respect for Milano, the way they started the season, and they are the hottest team in Europe right now. Although Barcelona is also unbeaten. They won 4 games. They had a double week with 2 overtimes. And
It was
they managed
not convincing wins actually.
But they managed them somehow against Olympiacos, first of all, in Palau, where it was just a free throw marathon in the end of the game. And then against Monaco,
they were down by 3 with 20 seconds left. And Monaco, in some stations, they just lost
Brandon
their
Davis was amazing against his former team. But I think Nikola Mirotic has his nemesis in the EuroLeague, and we see this now clearly. It's Will Thomas. He couldn't do anything against Will Thomas in the playoff series against Zenit last year. He couldn't do much against Will Thomas in this game against Monaco as well. Will Thomas was the better player if we compare these two power forwards. So if some elite team needs to solve the Nikola Mirotic problem, thinking ahead, let's say thinking about the Final Four, Will Thomas is the guy. And in the NBA, you have teams making moves mainly just for one matchup that they can potentially face in the playoffs. Let's say you sign PG Tucker because you believe he can do damage to Kevin Durant in that one series you're going to play. And these are kind of common things in the NBA offices where you just sit by with the numbers and you think this is the best guy to, let's say, try to stop KD or try to stop Steph Curry. We might face them in the playoffs, so we need to sign this veteran for his defensive abilities just for this one series. And it's not something being done in the EuroLeague, but
they should consider signing Will Thomas.
If it could be done, Will Thomas should be the guy to stop Nikola Mirotic. Surely.
But surely have some beef with Mirotic. I mean, that's the second time we're talking. That's the second pod we're having, and again, you're
man.
so against Mirotic.
No, he's playing great in the beginning of the season. Really, it's not that I don't like the player. He's playing great, and even in those games where he's struggling, he's still getting his numbers, especially the game against Olympiacos they had. But it's just that Will Thomas sort of became his nemesis. We know what happened against Zenit in the series. We saw what happened here in Monaco. Maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know. But it is what it is.
Yeah. What I loved about Brandon Davis, he looked terrible against Olympiacos. He just lost his head. But the way how he responded, the way how he responded in the game against Monaco, I think it was his career night. But that, let's say, game-saving putback layup was something different. And again, it tells a lot about the personality of Brandon Davis. I actually think that he might be a real candidate for the All EuroLeague first team center position or something like that.
If he keeps going like this, knowing that Nikola Milutinov is injured, maybe the best center in EuroLeague.
Tavares, of course, is there also for that award, but knowing how much Šaras likes post-up game, and then there are many situations where he can use Brandon Davis and
it just comes down to this, that with Šaras, he knows against which teams Brandon Davis needs to be dominant, and he knows in which games it will be more difficult for him. So he will not be consistently putting crazy numbers like this against Monaco, but there will be some games with him and his energy is always off the charts. But I wanted to give a shout out to another Barcelona player, actually to their captain, Piero Oriola. He's a Catalan playing for this team with heart and soul and making those game-winning free throws against Olympiacos, because I really didn't think he had it in him. His career numbers are 64%. 64%.
I was surprised that he made
those
both
are
shots.
Clutch free throws, and I was thinking, and I actually probably said that covering this game, if he makes one and ties this game, it's okay, because he's not a good free throw shooter. But he stepped up and he made these 2 free throws without a problem. So it was great to see that. And also another interesting thing from this game was Bartzokas. how annoyed he was afterwards, and you saw in his post-game interview, because this season EuroLeague in the broadcasts have interviews not only with the winning team's coach and the MVP and another player, but also the coach of the losing team. And Bartzokas didn't want to answer any questions. He just finished his remarks and said, "In my opinion, we deserve to win this game." And then he went out. So I think he was annoyed about the last foul call against Oriola, but either way...
Maybe he could challenge that call? He didn't use the challenge
I'm
rule?
not so sure. I still didn't get used to this coach's challenge in Europe. Coaches are not using it, actually. Barely using it.
Because it was a questionable call, questionable situation, and maybe another deeper look at the
Maybe
situation
he
could
used
have
it
helped.
some time earlier in
It
the
was
game.
that time
I'm
when
not
Oriola
sure.
was like hanging off a false hand or something.
It was nobody's rebound, and it was like scrabble, and
50-50
they
situation.
somehow called a foul. But you know what? At the same time, even if it is a questionable call, I believe in the end of the regular time, there was a foul, Hassan Martin on Hayes going for the rebound.
Oh, yes, of course. That was an obvious foul.
So
Yeah.
no injustice here. Maybe you can be annoyed about some foul calls that Mirotic got. Vezenkov was playing against him, and those were like superstar calls where you don't give the offensive foul to Mirotic for pushing Sasha Vezenkov, but you give the defensive foul for contact that goes afterwards. But no, it was just a very physical game, and I would say that there's no need to complain about the refereeing.
Hey, but Olympiacos is back, right? Do you agree with Sharas?
Yes, of course. And I was saying this before the season,
Yeah.
that it will gonna be in the playoffs.
They hyped them before the
that
season.
that it will be in the playoffs, and I was saying like 8th seed, maybe 7th.
Maybe even higher.
But the way they're playing right now, the level of basketball, if everyone stays healthy, they have a deep roster, they could aim even higher. The only thing they lack, I think, is shooters. Although they started hitting shots against Zalgiris. It was their best shooting night. They hit a lot of three-pointers with a good percentage, but I don't think they have sharp shooters in their team. Like, all those elite teams usually have a shooting guard that is a pure shooter. For example, Barca having Kyle Kuric in this position. Olympiacos have a lot of good defensive players. They have one of the best pick-and-roll players in Kostas Lukas. They can go very big with Mustafa Fall. They can play switch-all defense with Hassan Martin with his mobility and athleticism. Sasha Vezenkov is going to play his career season. It's very obvious.
Dors is a great addition.
Dors is a great addition. Walkup is a great addition. They can pressure the ball. They can play very good on-ball defense, both of them.
They have a complete roster,
It's a complete roster. I just think they're one shooter away from being a potential Final Four team.
You mean probably specialists, right?
Yeah,
because I mean, all these
three-point
guys like
specialists.
Vezenkov, Slukas, even Larantzakis, like this addition, Dorsey, they are solid shooters, really.
Decent, I would say.
Yeah, but they're kind of missing Kyle Kuric type of shooter, probably.
Yes,
right?
because
Something like that.
you saw in a double week the game against Barcelona where they were missing these spot-up shots. Papa Nicolau was missing them. Barca was taking risks on McKissick going under the screens, and he was missing. Other players were missing three-pointers. Only Yanulis Larantzakis hitting a crazy buzzer beater, but they were missing three-pointers. In other games they won, they were also missing wide open spot-up shots, but they won because of their amazing defense. They just trashed Baskonia, allowing only 50 points. And then in the second game of the double week against Zalgiris, they were hitting those spot-up shots. So I don't see a lot of consistency in this department, and I think this is not a very good three-point shooting team. But it is a winning team either way, because on defense, I think they will be top 3 in defensive ratings this season. This is just a team that
they're already allowing only 66 points per game.
It's a team with character. All these players, they are hungry, they are fighters.
And you don't see any weak spots. Like with Spanoulis, you always had the target on his back, and it was you were obviously attacking Olympiacos through Spanoulis. Now we cannot see any player like that with very with all these weaknesses and stuff. But talking about these 3-pointers, yeah, they're one of the worst shooting teams, only making 33% of 3-pointers. But at the same time, there shows that there's still a lot of potential because, for example, even with all these, let's say, shooters, they can be better than Volkov shooting 11% from free. Slukas, he's only shooting 32%. Vezenkov 31%. Even with this roster, they can make, they can have better percentage.
Be better. I agree.
And it shows that they have even more potential to be even better. So.
Yeah, they have more potential to be better on offense.
Yes.
Because
in defense they have everything.
They're already great. They're already set, and it might not be a big problem in the regular season. They will get their wins and they could get a good spot. But it might be a problem when you play this decisive game in the playoffs or in the Final Four where it comes down to shooting, where it comes down to whether the guy that they are leaving in the corner and Slukas is playing a pick and roll and making that corner pass, will he be able to hit that shot? And that's just the only reason I cannot say Olympiacos is a Final Four team right now, but the level they're playing, it's great. It's great to see them because it was kind of sad after they won these championships with this core of the team with Printezis, with Spanoulis, with Slukas before he left for Fenerbahce, with these good coaches. They had Dusan Ivkovic, they had Partsokas winning, then they had Sfairopoulos coaching, and there was such a downfall, so much chaos. They were not playing in the National League. The signings they made,
ownership problems.
They were signing random American
money
players.
Stolen from their safe.
It was so sad to see a big club like this with so much tradition struggling, being somewhere in the bottom half of the EuroLeague and signing random players. And this season, finally, they're back. Really, I agree with Sharas 100%. Olympiacos is back in the elite, and they will be tough to beat for anybody.
So we are not surprised that they started the season with 3 wins. We are not surprised about Real, CSKA, Zenit having 3 wins. But you had something to say about ASVEL, right? They also 3-1.
Yeah, of course. I predicted them being in the last place, so...
Tony Parker predicted them being down low because even before the first game of the season, randomly I saw an article in French media. I translated it, and Tony Parker was kind of saying to the fans that, hey, do not expect anything from us. It's gonna be a very tough season, and we will have to survive that season. But now they're starting the season like that, so it's nice. But I'm not losing my head again because
I'm not gonna say that they're fighting for the playoffs. They will probably in the end be somewhere 15th, 16th. But the potential they're showing, this is really positive, and a lot of credit to Coach TJ Parker, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of credit to Tony Parker and to the whole organization for being able to find the right players. For example, point guard position.
Okobo, Chris Jones.
We have our problems with Emmanuel Moody. We gambled. We made a risk. ASVEL went out there and signed Chris Jones, who was a role player from Maccabi. And now the way he's playing for ASVEL, he looks like the EuroLeague version of Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
The pitbull, the bully guard. He loves to have the ball in his hand. He has this crazy shooting technique, but it works for him. And he's a good point guard, good fit for this team. Because, of course, ASVEL, they are always looking for athletic players, for tough physical players. And replacing Mustafa Fall with Yusuf Afal is a good idea, of course. And Elie Okobo is going to be the next Gershon Yabusele story. I'm 100% convinced about this. He had his opportunity in the NBA, didn't work for him. He signed with ASVEL. He started the season great. He's a left-handed, skilled guard who loves to drive to the basket, at the same time being a good shooter. His numbers are crazy, 62% from 2-point spot, 53% three-pointers. He's scoring 16.5
I
points
can
per
easily
game.
see him in Maccabi, for example, the next
So
season.
in my opinion, Real Madrid having a lot of success with French players and guys like
especially.
Fabian Coser, Rudy Fernandez getting older, Elio Kobo, he's there. He's playing amazing basketball, and you see his skills. He's still very young. He's gonna be 24 in 4 days.
Okay, he's
October
super young.
23rd is his birthday. So, wow, what a signing! And like I said, it's the next Gershon Yabusele story, where a French player that didn't really fit in the NBA came back to Europe to play for ASVEL in EuroLeague, had a breakthrough season, and then signed a great contract with Real Madrid. So I expect something similar with Elio Kobo.
Yeah, and they were lucky with some players. For example, I didn't expect that Antetokounmpo will make such an impact. He's scoring 8 points in 14 minutes, and he's really making an impact and made an impact at some games.
Kostas Antetokounmpo proves to everybody that in order to be good at basketball, you don't really need to be able to play basketball.
Yeah.
You need to be a good athlete.
You need to be Antetokounmpo.
You need to be a good athlete. Be smart, listen to your coaches, have a good work ethic, because you cannot say that Kostas Antetokounmpo is very talented with the ball in his hands. He cannot do much, but he plays a lot of pick and rolls. He gets some offensive rebounds. Therefore, he scored 14 from 17 two-pointers, barely missing any, and he can play switch-all defense. With his athleticism, he can guard all 5 positions, and it works for us well. You can start games with Yusuf Afal, then you can switch to Kostas Antetokounmpo. They added a veteran James Gist as well. And don't forget, they got 3 wins playing without 2 of their potential starting lineup players.
David
Raymar
Lighty.
Morgan,
Yeah.
who's a solid forward, and David Lighty, who has been there with us for the last couple of years, and he's a proven scorer. And they were out injured, and they are still winning these games. So a lot of credit to TJ Parker.
A lot of credit to ASVEL announcer. You know, he's the best in this business. Pierre Zaltzman Crochet, I think that's his name.
Well, their home games are like a disco. So many tunes from the 90s, the 80s.
And that announcing, he's doing everything by himself. He's not only pronouncing the game, but he has the DJ set. He's doing all the music. Before COVID times, he was going on the court, making sirtaki dances and stuff like that. I mean, that guy is the best in this business, really.
And it may sound funny, but for a good organization, things like this, they add.
Of course.
They add to the chemistry, to the energy level in the building for the fans and even for the team playing at home. When you see a guy like this going crazy for this club, for this team,
Even in
gives you something
Lithuania,
extra.
Andrius Žurauskas, right? His pre-game stuff, all these screams.
His pre-game routine, yeah,
He's crazy. He goes crazy, but at the same time, he cheers up the crowd. And I remember that even the EuroLeague made some short video about him, you know, inspiring the crowd and stuff like that. So it's great to have such personalities.
Yeah, when you have passion in your club, it doesn't matter which position. Whether it's the entertainer or just someone on the staff,
unless your
it's
owner
good.
is
It's
too
good to have some
passionate
passion.
about some stuff,
Yeah.
you know. So always you have to keep some balance.
Yeah. Passion has to go alongside
Rational.
sharp thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and CSK, you mentioned them already. I think we should talk about them a little bit more. Once again, Dimitris Itoudis is facing a lot of challenges, and people could say that he is coaching the richest club in EuroLeague that can buy almost any player and blah, blah, blah. But it's a difficult position for any coach in any team when you're consistently losing your key players due to injuries. And it just happens so that Nikola Mirotic was about to play his comeback season, and he got hurt second minute
Yeah. Almost
of
kind
the first
second
game
position, something like
against
this.
Milano. Okay, so they're now without Nikola Mirotic. So they have to change the way they play. They start playing with Shengelia and Voigtman in the 4th and 5 positions. Voigtman sort of starts playing like Nikola Jokic with his passing skills and making 3-point shots. And
Shengelia also
Tornike
making shots,
Shengelia,
scoring
I
21
haven't
points.
seen this dominant player for a while in the EuroLeague. 33 points, career high scoring night against Zenit. He was just making players like Jordan Mickey, Chris Singleton, or Adrian Moorman look like kids. He was beating them. Oh my God, he was just playing as a true alpha male, dominant player. And I was thinking, this is Tornike Shengelia playing for the MVP this season. And then what happens? He's out for 2 months.
At least 2 months.
At least
That's
2
the worst
months.
thing.
Wow. Of course, they added Kenneth Faried, and we should talk about him a little bit. We shouldn't have any fantasies that it's the manimal, the Kenneth Faried from the good old Denver Nuggets days.
Or 2014 World Cup, where he was the MVP.
Yeah, so these days are gone. It's not like he's old, he's 31, but he hasn't played at the highest level for a long time.
At least for 2 years.
He had a short stint with Houston Rockets in 2018-19 season. He was okay in that short period. But recently he only played in Puerto Rico for a month. And in 2019 he played in China.
Yeah.
So when they signed him, at that time we still didn't know about Shengelia's injury. And I thought, okay, so he's a good backup. He might be better than Bolomboy. I could see him in Europe being a good pick and roll player, getting rebounds, playing with Alexis Shved, with Lundberg, with Hackett. It could work for him. Like
switching in defense.
Yeah,
energy
switch all
boost.
defense with his athleticism. He will need some time to adjust, but in the end, I could see him being a great backup center for 12 or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But now, with all these injuries, you could say that he needs to play more. He needs to cover like 20 minutes or even more. Is he ready for this? Is he going to be good enough in EuroLeague environment? He had his debut in the United League.
Against Parma.
He didn't play a lot.
Yeah, I watched that game. I watched that game only because of Faried. He played 11 minutes, 0 points, 0 from 1 field goals. He missed 2 free throws, 3 rebounds, 2 turnovers, 2 fouls. He was super physical, super active in the post. He didn't get a lot of touches, but at least he was putting a lot of effort. Sometimes he was, of course, you can see that he will need a lot of time to adjust because he was like sometimes he was lost in defense and stuff like that. He didn't look good in some situations against Parachuski. But I see a lot of potential. I mean, as a, let's say, power physical player, he runs in the transition and he's like first to grab the rebound and he's like first to be under the basket of the opposing team and stuff. So he will be nice addition. No big expectations at all, but energy guy coming off the bench, it will be okay for the team like CSKA at least for 2 months to wait for Shengelia to come back. And the best thing is that
is coming back like in 2 or 3 weeks probably.
Yeah, so that's the best part about Milutinov injury because again it looked very bad. I thought that we have him done for the season, so at least it's not that serious.
Well, now they're left with Bolomboy, with Faried, who will need more time to understand the EuroLeague and Dimitris Itoudis because it's a completely new environment for him. Although Kenneth Faried looks like a very motivated guy on the court and probably off the court. So I hope he's willing to learn and to play basketball in a different way than he has been playing his whole career. But I still see him as a 12-minute player on the CSK roster. So now they're left with him, with Bolomboy, with Voigtman, who can play 4 and 5. And inevitably, Itoudis will have to either push Clyburn to the 4th position at times or Kurbanov, or he will have to trust Semyon Antonov a little bit. They have Ivlev, who could play.
Doesn't sound good.
Well, he could play 3 minutes, make 2 good fouls, and go back to the bench just as long as he can give some rest to the main guys. But my idea is that right now, while they're waiting for Toko Shengelia to come back, for Nikola Milutinov to come back, Alexis Shved gets to be himself. Somebody has to provide scoring to this team. We saw that in the beginning of the season, they were playing a lot of post-ups from almost every position. Will Clyburn, Shengelia, they were concentrating their offense in the paint, scoring from the paint, being aggressive, drawing fouls. They will still play through Clyburn, of course. He will have his post-ups and he will have his numbers. But right now, with the big guys injured, I see the guards, the ones that have to step up in scoring department. And Alexei Shved, he already showed this in the last game against Zvezda. He can do this for CSKA.
Of course, he did it.
Maybe
all
he
his
will have
career.
some terrible shooting nights, but this is the time. Now all the bigs like Bolomboy or Faried, they're the bigs that will set screens for
They're
you.
helpers.
They're not guys like Shengelia or Milutinov that can be dominant. They will be setting screens for you, and you will have to take those shots. If Ellenberg has a good start of a season, his numbers are good. Daniel Hackett is getting back to shape.
Don't forget that Marius
Marius
Grigon is
Grigon
injured. so
is still injured, of course. So it's a loss. But in this situation, for them to get wins, I think Alexei Shved will have to score 15, 16 points per game, taking a lot more shots than he has been taking in these first 4 matches.
Guys, just a quick reminder, URBONUS is available on all major streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so on. Just write URBONUS in the search bar and make sure to follow us so you don't miss out our future episodes. Also, do not forget to visit basketnews.com where you will find the latest European basketball news and exclusive content. Probably it will be interesting. Also, it will be interesting to watch who they will sign for their backcourt, because if you remember, they were looking for some addition, especially in NBA team camps. They were looking for some cuts. There was some information about them being interested in Isaiah Thomas. If I remember well, Thomas kind of denied these rumors, but from what I've heard, there were conversations with Isaiah. He was pretty interested in coming to Moscow, but he received a late Exhibit 10 contract, so he decided to remain in States. Now, there are some rumors about Vildoza, about Wanamaker, but the thing is that Vildoza is just after his surgery, and he will need another month or 2 to come back, and his goal is to stay in the NBA. And Wanamaker, as far as I heard, due to personal reasons, due to family reasons, he's not looking for the European comeback. So the guard market is pretty dry, but again, when you see CSKA roster, you don't feel like you're lacking of backcourt players at all.
I don't think they need to rush. If a good option comes up,
and they're
let's
not
say in
rushing
December or January, they can make a signing then, because right now what I see is Lundberg playing solid basketball. Alexei Shved, his last game against Zvezda, he played 30 minutes. His percentage from the field was 6 from 9. It's a good percentage, above 50. 5 assists, no turnovers, 25 effective.
That's the game.
How is it called?
Player index rating.
Player index rating. Yeah.
This is the game. This is the way how Itoudis wants Shved to play,
and the way he has to play now that there's no Shengelia, because in these first 4 games, Shengelia was the player having the ball in his hands the most. He was making drives, facing basket. He was playing back to the basket. He was taking jump shots. He was going to the free throw line a lot. And he was making more touches than the guards in this team. Now the guards will have to play the way they are used to. And I'm not saying Alexei Shved gets to play the way he did in Khimki.
Oh, no.
Not like that. But just he gets more responsibility and more shooting opportunities, which could be great for him and for the team as well in this short period for a month or for a couple of months. Even with these injuries, knowing that Dimitris Itoudis always finds a solution, I don't think they're going to be losing many games. Maybe they will lose, like, let's say they're facing Olympiacos right now. Olympiacos looks in a good shape, maybe. But then again, I could see them winning against those teams they should win. And they will just have to grind a little bit more. Grind those victories. The way they did against Zvezda, winning 78-76. They had to fight for it. Crvena Zvezda is a tough team. And they managed.
I like them. I like Zvezda.
Oh yeah, we should talk about
I
Zvezda
love the way how they beat Maccabi. They didn't leave them no hope, and the way they built that win was true physicality. This is the most physical team I saw in the EuroLeague so far. They're patient, they're physical, they're fighting, and they're grinding to every win they can have. Okay, they're not perfect 2-2 so far, but I mean they're doing the best.
But when you lose in Moscow by 2 points,
Yes,
and you lose in Istanbul against Fener 57-61 in a tight game, you cannot say that these were like bad losses for Crvena Zvezda. And they only played one home game so far. They played in Stark Arena against Zalgiris. Great atmosphere. I believe they haven't played with this crowd for like 19 months during the pandemic.
2 years.
So it's a long time, and they were in the Stark Arena. The fans were going crazy, and it's very important, of course, for Crvena Zvezda. And I said in our previous podcast that I liked the players they signed. And Aaron White is still injured. Austin Hollins barely even played because of his problems, and they are still
they don't
getting
have a center.
Mike Zirbis is out. I think this team needs a mobile center. If they could add someone like Josh Nebo from Zalgiris, it could be a big game changer for them. This sort of style player, like who can switch on defense, who can play pick and rolls with Nate Walters, because Nate Walters looks very good in the beginning of the season, like a true point guard. He is their leader, I would say, alongside Nikola Kalinic. And this team is just built for fighting. This team is built with forwards like Davidovac, Kalinic, Simonovic, these long guys with long hands, long arms that can guard multiple positions. They can be very physical, put a lot of pressure on the ball. And the way you saw the game against Zalgiris, they played at home. It was a tight game for a long time, but then 38 minutes, it's just like they push the button. They only have 2 team fouls, so they start choking Zalgiris. It was extreme level of physicality, and they break the game this way. So I love Crvena Zvezda actually for their fighting spirit. As I said before, Dejan Radonjic doesn't seem a good coach when he goes abroad, but he is a very good coach when he works with Zvezda here in Belgrade. I don't think they will be in real contention for the playoffs.
No. But it will be team to beat.
With players coming back, if they sign a center at some time in the season, with Nate Walters staying healthy, I think they will be very competitive, extremely competitive. Maybe even a top 10 team. Why not?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, they made Maccabi look so bad, and I watched 2 games of Maccabi so far, and I don't like a lot of things about Maccabi so far, especially against Zvezda. I mean, their physicality, it seems like they didn't expect that kind of the level of physicality Zvezda bring to that game in Tel Aviv. But they were not smart in these physical plays. They were pushed around. They were not fighting for every ball. For example, you can see, especially Jalen Reynolds, I'm kind of surprised about his body language in the beginning of the season, although he's providing some numbers, but
he's struggling.
Sometimes he's just walking on the court. He's not fighting at all, and he's just switching off during the game. And a lot of comes in Israel. You can see there are a lot of criticism on Sfairopoulos, people saying that he's on the hot seat and stuff like that. But before trying to fire the coach, I would suggest every player to look at the mirror and to think about if they put all the effort to make this team better. And I don't see that answer.
Well, I am disappointed with Maccabi, of course, because I said I'm expecting a good season from them. I expect actually this team to make the playoffs. I hope that this last win against ASVEL in France will calm down the environment a little bit.
Although they lost in the Israeli championship against Galil Gilboa Hapoel, I think. Yeah.
Of course, you know that EuroLeague is the priority right now.
Of course. It just doesn't help.
To be honest, they should have lost the first game against Bayern Munich. It's just that that Scotty Wilbekin started playing some hero ball in the fourth quarter, and Trinchieri came short-handed with a lot of injuries and problems, and Bayern Munich should have stolen this game.
Yeah.
Maccabi just won it 69-68, so at least they did that, but against Zvezda and Armani, as you said, they couldn't match their physicality. My impression is that maybe they didn't have a good preseason, and a lot of players are just out of shape.
The thing is that they had COVID, and most of the team was out of game rhythm. And
This could be the reason.
I think this is the really good explanation why they were struggling in the beginning of the season and why they should be more patient with the team and coach Sfairopoulos, because I remember I was interviewing Nikola Mirotic, and he mentioned he calculated that Maccabi, before that game against Milan, Maccabi had 7 full team practices compared to something from 30 to 40 in other teams. So that's a huge difference, and that explains a lot when you see all these players lacking of chemistry in the court, lacking of as well as smart decisions.
Physical condition.
Yeah, physical condition
It's not like
terrible.
tactical, it's just physical.
With all these circumstances, having 2-2 in the beginning of the season is actually a good result for Maccabi.
It's not the worst,
for
sure. And, against ASVEL, there were a lot of positives in this game. James Nunnally having a great shooting night. And James Nunnally is probably one of their go-to guys. He is playing in a different role than he had in Željko Obradovic's team in Fenerbahce. Has the ball in his hands a lot more. Playing in China didn't break him. He's not a bad player. He's not a worse player than he was before leaving to China. So James Nunnally is a great addition for them. He scored 25 against ASVEL. Finally, some positives from Keenan Evans, another new signing, having a 13-point game. And now Maccabi will have a very important stretch of games because they're going to play 3 in a row at home. They're going to play Panathinaikos, then Zalgiris, and then Barcelona. They need to win at least two of these 3 games. At least 2. And by saying that, I mean, even if they lose one, probably against Barcelona, I would expect them to at least fight in this game and be in the game. If they do that, I still believe they can fix this season. It's nothing.
Yeah, they just have to be patient.
It's not a nightmare. 2-2, okay. So you just need some more time probably to get in shape as a team.
Yeah, some sources suggest that Sfairopoulos is in a hot seat, that Maccabi is looking on some available coaches, but...
I would be very disappointed.
Yeah, you cannot lose your head.
I think Sfairopoulos deserves some credit, some time, and a chance, because before pandemic, Maccabi was playing a great season. They were fighting for the 4th spot against CSK. Scotty Wilbekin was a good leader. Everything was okay. And Sfairopoulos, you saw that he did a lot of good things with his team, especially on defense. Then last year, so many difficulties where coach just couldn't do a lot. It wasn't down to Sfairopoulos. He couldn't control some of these things.
Limited budget,
COVID.
Fucked up preseason with COVID, with late signings and stuff.
Yeah.
It was not up to him.
And some things happening this year also.
Yeah.
What can he do about COVID situations?
Again, he's the last to be blamed.
I don't think they should be thinking about firing Sfairopoulos. He deserves a chance.
But Žalgiris made a move.
So the first one.
Schiller. Yeah.
To be honest, I expected to see the first coaching changes, whether in Kazan or in Baskonia. I thought that these are 2 hot seats where I think that neither Perasovic or Ivanovic, I'm sorry, my mistake, are safe. And I still think both of these old school coaches are not really safe in their positions, especially Perasovic seeing the last game. But Žalgiris making the move so early, wow, that was a bomb.
And what do you think about that?
Well, I think it was inevitable that Martin Schiller will be replaced at some point. I just didn't think it's going to happen in October. However, I think and I said this all along, they made questionable signings and mistakes preparing for this season. And for these low budget teams to fix their mistakes in autumn and winter is so difficult. And okay, you changed the coach. You went back from experiments with the NBA system, with American type of coaching, to European school of coaching with Zdovc.
Balkan school of coaching, old school of coaching.
Yeah, so that's the true European coaching style. Like this stereotype of what you imagine when you talk about European coaches, the old school European coaches. I haven't seen Zdovc for a while. I haven't seen his teams recently in France, for example. But okay, it's not the main topic. I just think that 2 or 3 roster changes are still needed for them to be competitive in EuroLeague this season. And time is ticking. Games are coming one after another. They're losing games one after another. The double week. What could the coach do in this double week? He had like 1 or 2 practices with the team.
That's the interesting point. There is some stereotype that when you make a sudden coaching change, it can make an impulse, a positive influence for the team, kind of a shock and stuff like that. But I think it's overrated, because when we saw Zdovc's example, he was saying, I don't even know all the plays of this team. I always have to be to consult my assistants, or I didn't have any practice to fix anything. So I think Zalgiris front office just put the coach on fire, let's say, and it didn't help his team at all.
Well, let's remember. Let's remember who they played. They played Zvezda away and Olympiacos away. I don't see any difference with Schiller or with Zdovc. Both of these games were losses, especially knowing that in Greece they played without Strelneks, Laverne, and Yankunas. Maybe with Schiller they would have been blown out in both of these games by 30 points. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe they would be even more competitive. If I remember well, last year they had a great success against Zvezda, even with Radonjic.
Yeah, they had great success. No, I think it was Sasha Obradovic still coaching them at that time.
In first game.
Yeah,
the second game, I think it was
But
a different coach.
Let's not talk about what happened last season. Last season for Zalgiris, it was a different story. It was a different team with players like Grigonis, Hayes, Volkap. The key for me is not the coach. They changed the coach. Okay, so maybe Zdovc will make some right moves, will make some right changes. You will see them playing better defense. But this roster is not good enough. The signings they made in the summer, who's responsible for this? Is it Motiejunas? Is it Schiller? Who has to take responsibility?
I think it's both.
Very questionable signings and decisions.
That's the worst part for me. I'm not questioning the timing of firing Martin Schiller, but this early firing of Schiller shows how huge a mistake it was in summer to give him more or less full control.
And you bring his assistants.
Exactly. His own assistant.
So you bring his assistants and you sack him after 2 games.
Exactly. Letting some Lithuanian players go away, which could be some role players in Žalgiris, letting him signing Tyler Cavanaugh for a contract, which is at least for 2 years guaranteed, signing all these players like Giffey and stuff. And now you have to change the coach. Probably some of the assistant coaching staff members, also to make at least 2 or 3 roster changes. I mean, that's a terrible situation, I think.
And Zdovc was announced the same day. They announced that they're parting ways with Martin Schiller, which means they probably had talks with Zdovc after the very first game in Villeurbanne.
Motiejunas told that they were considering having a coaching change for a week. So after the first round loss, so you give him all the control in summer, and then after the first week of the regular season, you just fire him. It's just bad. It's just really bad.
And it's normal for a team like Žalgiris to have at least one bad season in EuroLeague where they struggle, where they finish like 16th, 17th, or even dead last. You know their budget. And you know that teams like Alba, ASVEL, they can have a season like this as well. But it's just the way you play this season and why this happens, which is really frustrating in Žalgiris. And now we're talking about Emmanuel Moody, for example, which was a risk, a gamble. Do you believe that it can work out for him with Zdovc?
I'm not sure. I mean, I doubt that he can be successful, because we were already having doubts before his debut in Žalgiris, and Zdovc is completely different coach, and Moody is a completely different point guard when actually Zdovc needs, because Zdovc likes disciplined basketball. He likes to have true floor generals who can involve the players, and he likes defense. He emphasizes defense. Emmanuel Moody cannot fit any of these categories.
On defense, from what I know and what I see, he can be good at least in one-on-one defense, but in, let's say, defensive rotations, he just doesn't know what he's doing.
He was already terrible in one-on-one defense, actually. So,
and I'm not sure why, because
he has all the tools, but he just doesn't have that instinct
Okay.
for defense.
And people could say that he had a decent game against Olympiacos. Maybe it's like a breakthrough game. I don't think so. What I think is that he made his first 2 jump shots in the beginning of the game, which led to him having a good stat line in this particular game, where Zalgiris was actually short-handed without Yanis Strelnieks, with limited options either way. It just comes down to him making these first 2 jump shots, because if those shots didn't fall, I would think he'd had a same game or a similar game to the one in Zvezda or Zenit or any other that we saw this season. I don't really believe actually that it will work out for him and Zalgiris. And the sooner they can make the decision, the better. But the point guard market for them with limited money, what can they sign right now?
I have no idea. That's the worst part. And now they're officially looking for a big. I heard that Noel Pell from the NBA at least was on the list of Žalgiris, but that interest is very slight.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is Jordan Bell, and I think that Žalgiris had
The guy who played for the Warriors, Jordan Bell.
I think so. Yeah,
He's a good player.
he's a good player, but I'm not sure about that fit. I'm not sure if that's the player which Žalgiris needs right now.
Well,
in
he
this
could
position.
be another guy that can switch everything on defense. Let's say
They already have Josh Nebo, who's having good strides in Žalgiris. I think that they need a different.
I don't know what is Zdovc's conception of a power forward. Does he need a stretch four? Does he need a more classical power forward? Because in my opinion, Žalgiris don't need to sign a pure center right now. I think they would need someone who can play in both positions, 4 and 5.
I agree, but the thing is that actually Zdovc likes bigs who can stretch the floor, who can make mid-range shots or even three-pointers.
So Jordan Bell has no jump shot.
That's the thing, and neither Pell or other candidates. So we'll see. Also yesterday, Emiliano Carcia from Sportando reported that Andrzej Pasechniks is one of the candidates to join Žalgiris and is largely considered by Žalgiris, but our colleague Jonas Miklovas denied the rumor, saying that Žalgiris has no interest in signing him. So it will take time. It will be interesting to see what they will add. I agree with you that they need more versatile power forward center in this position. But what 2 or 3 roster moves you would make? Which positions you would change?
Replace Emmanuel Moutier with a true point guard with European basketball experience.
And with defense. Because any backcourt player of Žalgiris can play.
And with defense. No physicality in this team. As I said from the first
no athleticism,
day,
no physicality,
I said that
nothing.
This is a group of nice guys. Nice guys don't win in the EuroLeague. So yeah, someone like this. Someone like Chris Jones, as I said, from ASVEL. Then, of course, someone who can play at 4 and 5 positions. In addition to what there is already, knowing that Geoffrey Lauvergne is out for some time. And I would do anything possible to somehow ship Tyler Cavanaugh somewhere to find a club that could take his contract and add another power forward, which fits Zdovc's conception. Because Tyler Cavanaugh is not Zdovc's player. He was not good actually under Martin Schiller in these very first games. He's soft on defense. The only thing he can do is make some spot-up shots. It's not enough for a EuroLeague team.
He's not athletic.
So if I could replace him, also add someone big on top of that to play in the 4 and 5 positions, and replace Emmanuel Moody with a point guard, I could live with that, but I would still see Žalgiris. I mean, I would see them getting some wins, but I would still see them somewhere on the bottom of the list. And that is strange for me. what is the idea for a club like this firing a coach after 2 games?
Especially
expecting?
switching
You're
all the
expecting to make the
ideology.
playoffs? You're expecting to save the season?
Well, Matiunas told that
what
their
is the
goal is to win
expectation
all
here?
the games and to make the playoffs, which sounds crazy.
Well, they're not doing this anyway with Zdovc, with Schiller, with Phil Jackson, with Mike D'Antoni or any other coach. I'm not
What
sure.
about Ataman? What would Coach Ataman
if
would say
his son will
about
prepare a
this
good
Žalgiris
game plan,
station?
then okay. But in general, it just seems to me like it's a hangover after Šaras era. Last season was sort of okay, 17 wins. We are happy. We still have these good players from Šaras times. And now it's the true hangover of Šaras era, where this organization doesn't really know where their limits are, what they're reaching for, what they're doing, what they're signing, whether they're trusting their coach or not. It seems that
Are they playing young players or not, for
in the
example?
summer they're trusting him. Now all of a sudden it's October, they lose 2 games and it's panic mode. It's a team full of veterans. It doesn't matter whether it will be Zdovc or some other coach next season. You have Kalnietis, Jankūnas, Milaknis, Strelnieks, veteran players. You will have 6 or 7 roster changes next year also. It's a lot of chaos, and I think it's a hangover for Žalgiris and for Paulius Motiejunas.
By the way, you mentioned Strelnieks, and actually I got some emails from one Latvian fan who requires us, and especially you, to apologize for calling Jānis Strelnieks washed up player.
Did I say washed up?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I still think he's an injury-prone player, which is proven.
Yeah, that's true. He's good.
He can play good
We
pick and
didn't
roll,
question
and he
his
can
skill.
make shots.
Yeah.
But
he's not. If he's playing only every second game, that's already a huge problem for Žalgiris, because Žalgiris cannot afford main shooting guard.
If you sign Jānis Strelnieks for your EuroLeague team to be a role player, to be a helper, it's okay. But if Jānis Strelnieks is your number 1 option on offense, your number 1 ball handler, your team is doomed. He's going to miss at least 10 games in the regular season because of injuries. He's not going to be shooting so amazing like he did in the first games, hitting some shots
like 70-60%.
buzzer beaters of one leg. I have nothing against him. He's a good player. He's a good basketball player.
He's a good guy.
It's
also.
just that with the players that Žalgiris already has, replacing Marius Grigonis with Jānis Strelnieks is not a good idea, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry. I apologize if I said washed up. Maybe those were not the right words. I apologize for that, really. It could sound a little bit offensive. Yeah. Sorry.
And talking about these roster moves, I agree, Žalgiris, but it's so complicated because when we talk about the point guard, which would involve other players, which would be also great in defense, then I would be missing a real scorer. If you add, let's say, Thomas Walkup kind of player, you're still missing scorer at this shooting guard position.
Then you're expecting Lekavicius to be the scorer, Strelnieks to be healthy.
That's a problem.
Žalgiris
Žalgiris
doesn't have the budget to solve their mistakes, to fix their mistakes from the summer. They can just cover them a little bit, but it will not solve everything. And at least I like some things. Let's say Zdovc knows what he's doing with Mantas Kalnietis.
Oh yeah,
Martin Schiller. He didn't know what kind of player Kalnietis is. He was playing him at a 2 position. He was just standing somewhere in the corner, not having the ball in his hands. At least with Zdovc, he has this classical European point guard, so he can play a lot of pick and rolls, have the ball in his hands.
He's playing a lot of pick and roll
He's
with
playing
Nebo, and they're great.
So at least I like some of these things, some of these details. It could get better because now they're having more practices, so Zdovc will start to implement his own plays, his playbook, his system. it's okay. I'm not judging him as a coach from these two games they played with Zvezda and Olympiacos. I understand the circumstances.
Even Ulanovas, for example, we were missing his post-up
The
situation.
very first possession.
The first possession.
The very first
Exactly.
possession of
Yeah,
Zdovc
yeah,
in Zalgiris was Ulanovas in the post. Yes,
the second
sir.
game against Olympiacos, the second minute of the game, and Ulanovas is making some post-up moves. Of course, he's still lacking of confidence, and he needs to do something with all these 3-point shots. He cannot shoot beyond the arc after dribbling and stuff like that. He's not that player what he's trying to be. But again, at least Zdovc is the coach who's all about having clear roles, disciplined, organized basketball. So he will find good spots for all these players he has, but there's still a lot of adjustments away. Roster moves away from having a good roster.
Wrapping up, you have something?
Yeah, I would add not just flipping Tyler Cavanaugh to another power forward. I would probably combine. I would ship both Cavanaugh and Giffey for, let's say, a better power forward, because
I like Giffey, to be honest.
I'm not a huge fan of him.
Well,
actually.
to me, he's a decent small forward with a good spot-up shot, and he's not very bad on defense. He can play multiple positions. I think that
he's not the worst part of Žalgiris, that's for sure.
I would keep him. Having in mind if Ulanovas is struggling with his shooting, Giffey in the season could
I just
become
see that
the
they're
main
loaded
guy.
in that position, and that's how I would split the money for different positions.
Okay.
Anyway, it's
fair
complicated
enough,
thing.
Fair enough. Just wrapping up about Žalgiris, do you think that knowing Zdovc's history as a coach, do you think he can be a long-term solution, let's say in Kaunas, working ahead of this season? Because in the past I see he worked for a year. Everywhere he worked for
Maybe
a year.
It was 2 teams where he worked for 2 seasons.
But no continuity in general.
Yeah.
So do you think that it was just like a solution for this season, and next summer they're gonna be
They'll
talking
have
with some
more
other
open
coaches?
market probably. I look at him as a short-term solution so far.
Yeah,
That's
me
pretty
too.
obvious
Me
because
too.
of his style, because of his history. And I think that Zdovc is very smart, very organized coach, and he's the one who Žalgiris was lacking of, on the sidelines. Žalgiris needs discipline.
Someone strict,
Yeah,
strong
strict.
hand.
Yeah, as we Lithuanians love, strict hands and stuff.
And I said,
But all these strict hands and stuff like that, players usually get tired of it, and it's really hard to maintain the team on the same line with such a strict
for
coach.
short term, this would
Probably,
work
unless Zdovc will make some
as
changes.
a shake up in the team. Like,
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
maybe. And you know what I said about Martin Schiller, that this season could make or break his EuroLeague potential career. Well, it's gone. It's broken.
Yeah, probably. I
I-
have no idea what he's going to do. I actually think that he's a really great assistant coach.
So I think he will be an assistant coach in the NBA.
Yeah. For me, it looks like the most likely scenario.
He already have connections in the NBA. He worked
Unless
in the C League.
Alba will need some coaching
Alba
change.
Berlin could be the only
That would be a great
option.
fit, actually.
But knowing Alba Berlin, I cannot imagine them firing Israel Gonzalez for whatever reason. If they trusted him to be the successor of Ito Garcia Reneses, he was in the system already as an assistant coach. He will not be fired like Martin Schiller after losing a couple of games, and I think Martin Schiller will end up in the coaching staff in NBA, maybe even in Utah Jazz.
Oh, yeah. The final thing about coaching change. The last season, there were only 3 coaching changes. All these teams who made changes were Panathinaikos, Zvezda, and Khimki. And all these teams were last 3 teams in the standings, actually. So the coaching change didn't help.
Well, it couldn't help him.
No, nobody could help Khimki. But, okay, we have 2 other examples. So,
This season, maybe there will be more coaching changes. Last year was the pandemic. It was hard to make financial decisions.
it's not easy this season, too, because there are not so many good coaches available. You have to admit that. So if you need to replace something, you have to have a good alternative.
I would still bet on Kazan replacing Parasovic at some point, and I would actually bet on Baskonia replacing Duško Ivanovic. the way Baskonia is playing is, I don't know, they're suffering a lot on the court. So it's not aesthetic. I don't like watching them.
That's the way how they were playing
But
under Duško all
If
the
they're
time.
playing like this and winning, it's okay. But so far, they don't look like a winning team. They grinded out an important win in that last game against Alba and against Panathinaikos, but those were not convincing wins, and they were playing against bottom half teams in the EuroLeague. Against Armani and Olympiacos, they were hopeless.
Yeah.
Let's admit it. They were hopeless in both of these games. So it's not, they don't look like playoff material. So I think Duško Ivanović could be also replaced during the season. So I see these two hot seats. And Kazan, well, 41 points. A team with Mario Hezonja,
I was so
Isaac
mad.
Cannon.
I had Mario
Lorenzo
Hezonja.
Brown.
I had Mario Hezonja as my captain on my fantasy basket news fantasy team.
How on earth?
He scored.
How on earth do you score 41 points?
I mean, he scored something like 2 points or something like that.
Oh my god! This team's the whole team has had an index rating of 15.
My God.
The whole team had.
My God, he ruined my
50.
great start of the double week. Really.
But how do you score 41 points with that much talent? With that much, I mean, so many scorers, potential scorers. Wow.
OJ Mayo is joining them soon, so.
I don't know
let's see.
I'm not sure what to expect from him. I'm not sure how good can he be right now. But
Hey,
80-41,
still,
what kind of scoreline is this?
let's not lose our heads.
Okay,
in
yes,
the middle of October.
I admit that they lost some last second games. They lost by a single point against Zenit in the opener. They lost against Monaco in the overtime when Mike James started doing his
They
magic.
easily could be a 3-1 team.
But at the same time, they could be 0-4 because they made a huge comeback against Bayern Munich. They were down by double digits. And knowing that they really invested a lot in new players, signing a superstar like Mario Hezonja, the expectations are pretty high. I don't really know, and I'm not familiar with any of the decision makers in Kazan. But I imagine that for Perasovic, there's pressure. And he needs to win some games immediately. I think so.
Gytis is showing us some giving us some signs. He was doing something like this, which is something like a dance of the roof, our Eurovision group. If you want to cancel the podcast or to finish the podcast, do some other signs. But anyway, we have to finish. We didn't talk enough about Monaco, but probably we'll do the next week because they're facing their league's team, I would say, Baskonia. There will be some other nice games. Unix against Efes, for example, if Efes will manage to get out of the losing slump.
They will.
Then, for example, what else is playing? CSKA Olympiacos.
Yeah, CSKA Olympiacos is the one I'm looking
Barcelona
forward to.
Zenit. I mean, there will be some nice games.
Xavi against Sharas. It's a good
playoff
week.
classics
Good
last
week of
season. So
Who's Madrid playing?
Fenerbahce.
Another good
Another good game. So
Fenerbahce now maybe gain some confidence from humiliating Kazan by 39 points. We talked in our Lithuanian podcast about Fenerbahce struggles, why they're struggling in the beginning of the season with so much talent and all these players. And this could be the game where everything clicks for them. And Djordjevic said that simple basketball is the most beautiful basketball. And when you have Dekolo, Vesely, Booker, Henry, you can play actually quite simple basketball, but effective at the same time. So I'm looking forward to Fenerbahce against Real as well.
I'm looking forward to come back to the podcast after 1 week, not like after 1 month. So I missed you, actually. I missed our conversations.
Too, man. And maybe, I don't know, I felt a little bit rusty now because I haven't talked English for these 3 weeks.
You were good, especially with that Ataman impression. You're in a good shape.
It's a classic. Maybe it should be a weekly classic, something I should do every week.
Yes. I will prepare some questions for Coach Ataman.
So I expect to get some comments. Maybe people don't like it at all. I don't know.
It wasn't racist or something, no?
No, man. Come on.
I'm just kidding. No,
It's
I'm just kidding.
Impersonation.
Of course,
Come
of
on,
course.
Man. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the NBA nights today.
It's gonna be a long day for you.
Oh, yeah.
Rytis Vyšniauskas, Donatas Urbonas, thanks for watching us and follow us on basketnews.com.